Hey dudes and lady dudes, I'm Kevin Hendrix, and I play Henry Hendrix in my all metal shows. And, well, also Earwig, the Horseman of Death, and, well, pretty much all of my characters because I don't have any friends. That's not entirely true. I have enough friends, it's just that aside from not playing well with others, I also only play from midnight to daybreak, so there's not a real big opportunity to get around and pal around with my buds. And I'm kind of a meanie poopy head. Anyways, if you've watched my other videos, you know that I'm way into metal and video games. Well, if you haven't, you should go check that shit out. I do a lot of reimagined versions of video games and musics, or from videos, damn it, from movies. And I add some original material to some of them to give them a little extra zazzmatazz. All of your favorite things made fucking metal. Well, all of my favorite things. I haven't the foggiest what your favorite things are, but if I did, I'd probably make that shit metal too. So because I like to have my hands in all the cookie jars, I'm going to be switching gears for a little bit in this video, and I'm going to be tapping into my tool belt and using some skills that I developed during my time at Full Sail University, where I went and got my Bachelor's of Science in Game Design. Naturally, that means we're going to be talking about some video games. My poison of games are first and foremost horror, survival, scary scaries. I didn't know that for the first many years of gaming because, well, there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of that kind of flesh to consume at the time. I mean, we had shit like, what, War of the Dead, Sweet Home, and Alone in the Dark, but that shit was like the monsters in the Addams family of the horror genre. It wasn't until 1996 when the genre really saw its first true bone-chilling installment. Shinji Mikami and his team provided us with a turning point in the survival horror with Biohazard, or as we know it here,
Resident Evil.
While the game didn't exactly pioneer the concept, Resident Evil sure as hell polished and refined the formula. It wasn't my first entry, however. I started out on Resident Evil 2, but it really solidified my love for the genre. Now, I did go back and play the original, and I've survived all of them ever since, except for the spin-offs. I mean, some of that shit was... It didn't feel like Resident Evil, right? I could hunker down, draw the curtains, and really sink my teeth into this topic. I mean, I could go on about horror genre for hours. And, well, I mean, hell, it's fucking October. It's motherfucking Halloween. I think that's what we're gonna do. This video is gonna be a Halloween special. Nothing but horror games. I'm going to discuss and explore an array of avenues regarding my personal preference and intrigues with the horror title genre, ranging with topics from story, gameplay, music, and of course, design. Eliciting intentional emotional responses within the player is the true calling of any game designer. And in my conversations with friends, generally the most visited topic is that of fear. Now, films fall a bit short of triggering that kind of response in me. Most of them are just emphasize gore, which there's not a whole lot of substance there, right? Games, on the other hand, well, those have made me shriek like a little girl at 3 a.m., making my family wake up. But why is that? Why are games far more frightening than films? They're, they're both entertainment, they're both false, they're fake, we know they're fictional characters. I believe it's because there's a greater sense of immersion when we're playing a game. I mean, you're far more emotionally attached to this character, and the events, they're scripted, right? But they're not exactly predetermined. I mean, you can start walking backwards in a game, you can go visit other areas, you can linger for hours on end. Now, when designing for fear, the basic elements are, of course, atmosphere, eerie music, and disturbing images paired with grotesque enemies. Now, there's a lot more to be involved in that, most of which stems actually from psychology. That's right. Understanding yourself and your fellow human provide invaluable insights to designing experiences. That is, knowing how the mind works and reacts to certain stimuli are paramount to architects of digital worlds, especially mind-fucked, terror-fueled ones. Game designers make clever decisions that lend a heavy hand to facilitating fear. Level design, for instance. Imagine emerging into a long, narrow corridor with no objects to hide behind or provide any kind of cover. Or how about removing weapons from the fray so that should a pestilent, sludge spewing monster emerge, you have nothing of which to defend yourself with? Or how about my personal favorite, the inclusion of an unknown or intangible entity that frequents and engages pursuit? Remember Nemesis from Resident Evil 3? It's pretty fucking hard to ever feel safe when something can just plow through a wall or mow down obstacles to get to you and fuck your day right up. So, the first memorable experience I had with foreboding dread and true fear was while playing Condemned Criminal Origins. Here we get a marriage between crime scene investigator and the paranormal world. You get to be the mind behind some really intriguing sleuth-styled detective work, complete with gadgets and resources, while fending off tweaked-out addicts scampering around in some really shady locations, and investigate some grisly, horrific, supernatural serial killer murders. I mean, it's kind of a win-win. The game does well to keep you on edge, with the violent, crazed denizens that will lurk on floors above you, behind walls, and knocking things over before abruptly scampering off or lunging after you. But later on in the story, when you start to realize there's something far more sinister than serial killer X, your investigations lead you to an old farmhouse on an abandoned apple orchard. Here, you need to use one of your gadgets to find and follow traces of some sort of fluid. Blood? I hope it was blood. Could have been ectoplasm. Or something really fucking gross. I don't know, man. But you truck all over this farmhouse and find clues revealing some gruesome shit, all the while hearing some new, disturbing noises of something lurking in the house. Eventually, the writings on the walls and the questionable fluid trail leads you to some stairs that descend down into the darkest basement you've ever fucking seen. Or didn't seen. I mean, it was just black. Like blacker than the blackest black times infinity. I just stood up there staring down at this dark abyss, and before long, felt like the abyss was staring back at me. No fucking thanks. I turned the hell around and went back upstairs and just started searching all over this house. I went back out into the orchard and just looking everywhere, desperately trying to find some way to progress the story without having to go down those damn stairs. It was the first time I had to turn the game off and wait until daylight to finish because, nah. Here in my grown man big boy pants days, there is increasingly less fear experienced from a game, no matter how well it's designed, or how much blood, which isn't really scary, by the way. It's fucking metal, but it's not intrinsically scary. The thing is, I don't easily scare, and most of what is supposed to be scary just gives me a boner. But what does make me piss my ass is deep waters, especially if it's murky, near impossible to see, and with a ridiculous short field of view. I'm looking at you, Fallout 4. Every time I fell off a ledge and plunged into water, my heart would immediately begin racing, which is also what I do in the game. I skimmed the surface, frantically mashing the jump button 1,000 times faster than the character could possibly jump, skipping across the water like a flat fucking pebble. I eventually had to go to the forums and search for information to determine if there are any scurvy sea monsters. And it is actually a perk that prevents water from inflicting radiation, and leveled up a second time allows you to breathe underwater. I didn't bother with that shit at all, because what good was being a fish do for a filthy landlubber? I was never going to go in that stuff. I eventually found out that there were no beasts here. In fact, there's literally almost nothing in the water, period. Fallout's not a scary game. There's nothing horror about it. It doesn't try to be scary. There was that one part in the witch house, the museum, where you gotta find the Deathclaw egg. It kind of did some sweet horror stuff there. But other than that, the game's doesn't even try to be scary. But that water, man, there's no semblance of vision in there, and you can't use any weapons, not even melee. So you're just fucked.